Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Caroline Colas, and I'm your host on the Positive Psychology Hour, a series that we do with the Whole Being Institute in partnership with them. And we're so excited that you're here on our Zoom unity, our community. Today, we're going to be talking about grit and grace, a roadmap for finding the strength to flourish through adversity with Kara Coleman. Drawing from Kara's personal journey, this session will examine how positive psychology helps us grow and flourish through adversity in transformative ways. Participants will learn what it means to experience a building effect that enhances our adaptive coping capacity as we face challenges. As inspiration for defining your own roadmaps to resilience, we will explore character strengths and practices for cultivating a spiritual growth mindset that can enhance grit and grace. I understand that you can't hear me that well, so I'm going to speak up and then I'm going to see what's going on with my sound, okay? Thanks, Gail and Ellen. Kara, a little bit about her, is the director, MASC, is the director of member success for Hello Insight, which helps organizations integrate and evaluate positive youth development practices that enhance social emotional learning. Super important. Kara is also a certified coach and interspiritual counselor who has worked with individuals seeking to align inspiration and inner wisdom with empowerment action, with empowered action. And she's been doing this since 2010. Welcome to the call, Kara. What a morning we've had just trying to get everything sorted. I think that you're an example of grit.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you to you and the whole JCC team, the Whole Being Institute, for this opportunity to be here. And thank you, everyone who's joined, for your time and presence and energy. I really appreciate it. And yes, we were navigating Zoom life as all of you were coming on. So thank you so much for your patience and understanding with that.
Yes.
Uh,
First of all, I want to congratulate you. I understand that you are a SIP, which stands for Certificate in Positive Psychology alum, as am
yes.
I. And everyone, just so you know, it's the last week to join the current SIP training. I'll put a link in the chat. I would highly recommend that you consider doing that. If you're on the fence about it, it's not too late. You can definitely do that. But Kara, I was just interested in how you even heard about the Whole Being Institute and the SIP program in general.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I too would highly recommend it. I am a recent graduate. I completed the SIP program this past August, and this presentation is actually an extension, an expansion of my final project. So I'm really excited to share that as well, and appreciate the inspiration that that experience provided. But like many things, a moment of magical serendipity. As a coach and as a counselor, I often find myself Googling and researching different topics around resilience and what it is to maintain a positive outlook. And I have to say, some years ago, probably 3 or 4 at least, I had a happy Google moment of coming across Whole Being and reading an article that had been shared through the Institute. And then I just started investigating and reading all about the program and was so impressed. Even having had many certification experiences, it just resonated so deeply at a heart level. And so finally, I had the opportunity this year to move forward. And it's one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, I feel the same. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. We have a lot of SIP alum on the call who are wise in that they're getting a regular dose of positive psychology. I see Ellen and Rachel and a few people just nodding. But you were going to begin. I want to get you started because you're going
Sure.
to begin with us, and we have a wonderful talk. And it could not be more appropriate right now and more needed to talk about grit. So thank
Oh,
you. Thank you.
thank you so much. Happy to be here. And again, this is one of my favorite topics. Always has been. So it's great to be able to take the deep dive with all of you. So I should share my screen. Is that okay, Carolyn? Oop.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to move forward and begin the slideshow. And I have a couple of boxes popping up again. We're going to do some Zoom housekeeping. And here we are.
And they should be, if there are boxes there, it's usually just because something's open.
So do you let me stop the share and make sure I'm closing everything.
Okay.
And
everyone tell me if my volume is better. I turned it up. Let me know in the chat.
I'm going to shut down everything. Pardon me, everyone. And we'll try this again.
Worry.
Wish us luck.
Oh, great. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, Joanne and Gail, thank you. And then, of course, we have enabled the transcript. So those of you that want to read, you can.
Great. Okay, so we're going to try again. You'll let me know if you still see boxes.
Okay.
All right. How's that view for everyone?
It's better. Can you move there you go. Let's go with it.
All right, we'll go with it. Thank you again for your patience, everyone. And welcome. We're having a live demonstration of grit and grace, right? How appropriate in moving through the Zoom technology adventure that we have become accustomed to. And so today's topic, a grit and grace, a roadmap for finding the strength to flourish through adversity. And as Carolyn touched upon in the introduction, this topic is very personal for me because I feel like it really encapsulates my experience of the last few years, particularly the last 7 years. And my hope is that in sharing my journey and experience, that you too will find wisdom in walking your own path, in living life and in those moments of facing adversity, that would be beneficial to you, in moving through those moments and finding a deeper sense of grit and grace. And so I wanted to begin and just invite us into this space and time with a reading that I dearly love, from Morgan Harper Nichols' All Along You Were Blooming, which feels very appropriate for these times and certainly this topic for today. So if you would bear with me, I just want to invite you to settle into your seats and really take a deep breath and just allow yourself this moment to acknowledge that this is time for yourself. This is an opportunity to be still, to take in insights, new awareness, and to really care for yourself in a way that you're being, a really conscious support around all the things that are a priority for you, right? And so just even having this opportunity to set down the to-do list and just say, this is my time to take something new in and be nourished by it. So with that, I just want to share Morgan's words. If you are swimming in a sea of unanswered questions, may you find courage to be silent. And while the waves fall over one another in a splash of black and blue, slowly drowning out your thoughts, leaving you with nothing else to do but fall helplessly under the body of rolling water. Do not think you must rush on. It is okay to spend some time here. It is okay to be the only one here. The shore is calling, but today you're in this water. Find its purpose, its substance. Wait in silence fall into a place of listening and surrender. And trust that even here, these whirling waters will, will not carry on forever. And when the current comes, you will be lifted up, carried to the shore, and you will be better for having been here, embracing silence amidst the water's roar. And I love these words so much. They felt so deeply appropriate for today's conversation. This idea of being lifted up in a way by life that allows you to look back over the stormy seas, the rough waters you have come through, in a way that you can appreciate having been there and what you have gained from it. To recognize that even in the most challenging times, there is an opportunity for learning and growth. And so our conversation for today is going to be guided by, the exploration of 4 questions. When I was considering, what does it mean to flourish through adversity? This is the inquiry that really arose for me. And so one question, what does it mean to flourish? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Secondly, how does positive psychology help us grow and flourish through adversity, through those rough waters and stormy seas? And what are the personal strengths and practices that contribute to our ability to flourish, right? What keeps us afloat? What serves as those life preservers, right? That allows even the current to find us and carry us, right, to shore. And what insights and motivations enable us to embody grit and grace? And so to begin, I always find it helpful with this question to just begin with a place of seeking shared understanding, right? Around what does it mean to flourish? And many of you, especially being SIP alums, are probably very familiar with this topic. But I would say even being an alum, or even prior to being an alum, I find it the idea of what is flourishing, the question of it, so helpful to explore again and again, to come back to as a remembrance and a reminder and an affirmation. And so with that, I started with your sort of basic Webster's dictionary definition of flourish. What is that? To grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way, right? I love that the word vigorous is included in the definition, just feels vital and vibrant. And I love the synonyms for flourish, to thrive, to prosper, to blossom, and bear fruit. And so just even having the conversation and thinking about this presentation and the concept of flourishing, thinking about, I love that the metaphor of tending your garden, and how do you tend your inner garden in a way that helps you thrive came up. I love that metaphor. And we also have the 5 elements of human flourishing that, the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman, offered for us, right? When we think of human flourishing, we think of enhancing and increasing the sense of positive emotions, right? Our sense of well-being and excitement and joy and happiness, our a sense of being satisfied with life, and our way of engaging with the world through our passions, our work, our interests, our hobbies. and the opportunity to forge and enjoy deep and meaningful relationships with others, and also find meaning and purpose in life, as well as the opportunity to think about, accomplishments, but in a way that really connects us to how are we embracing and expressing our gifts and talents. And further, on the topic of what is flourishing, I so love this definition from Dr. Lynn Suits. Flourishing is the product of the pursuit and engagement of an authentic life that brings inner joy and happiness through meeting goals, being connected with life's passions, and relishing in accomplishments through the peaks and valleys of life. There is so much I love about this definition, so much. But I have to tell you, as someone who, from the time I can remember, from very young, has always been really committed to honoring my passions as a guide, and fortunately, very supported in that as well. I love the idea of honoring what resonates with us and really honoring who we fully are, our authentic selves, as a guide for steering us towards life experiences that we can truly relish, right? That give us joy, that fuel our happiness, even through the peaks and valleys of life, right? No matter what comes our way, you still have the opportunity to flourish. And I just love how Dr. Suits lifts that up for us to appreciate. And so, as I was thinking about the definition of flourishing, of course, you begin to reflect, well, what does that look like for me? what, how do I experience flourishing? Am I experiencing flourishing? And so you see here just a collection and a collage of just moments that really represent that experience in my own life. And you see a lot of smiles, right? So this sense of happiness and optimism, and feeling connected to a positive outlook, a genuine positive outlook, a sense of vitality and feeling energized and passionate about opportunities and what I get to experience within myself and with other people. Meaningful contribution. I told my folks at Hello Insight, my lovely team of collaborators. You can see here at the top a little Zoom capture of them. Every day I'm so thankful to be connected to doing work that I truly love around social emotional learning and positive youth development. And I work with a wonderful team who I enjoy too. And so we talk about positive relationships and meaningful contribution. In this moment in my life, I feel very much like they're so prevalent for me. Um, and just having, you see family, you see friends. My son Isaiah, who'll be 8 in December, just the relationships, my parents, the relationships that are central in my life, and just really help me stay connected to hope and just the commitment to flourishing. And I want to say, learning stance is one of the phrases that stands out. Just the opportunity. One of my real drivers and motivators is the opportunity not just to learn. I love learning, but to apply that learning in ways that are beneficial. And so, understanding that every opportunity, every experience offers something that I can take with me and carry forward about what's working well or even not so well, right? There's something that's being offered I really appreciate. And laughter and fun, always, humor is one of my top signature strengths. So if I'm not laughing or having fun, I'm probably not going to be doing it for long. And then also gratitude, just having a sense of the good, right? Appreciating the good. All of these things encompass so much of what flourishing looks like for me. And so I think it's important to really begin with, what is flourishing and what does it look like? Because as we're thinking about it, the journey towards an optimal state of being, right? Flourishing is a process and a state of being. It's not a destination where you just sort of get there and end. It's an ongoing experience. But if you're thinking about where you want to go and what you want to achieve in terms of feeling your best, experiencing life in a way that feels good, I wanted to give you all the opportunity to really, you know, think about what that state really looks like for yourselves, right? As you think about your flourishing, I wanted to take this opportunity to just ask you to take a couple minutes to journal in considering a couple of questions, two questions. One is, what feelings and experiences do you associate with living the good life? What feelings and experiences do you associate with living the good life? Two, what gives you a sense of fulfillment and meaning, right? What are those things that when you have the opportunity to take part in them or experience them, you really find yourself relishing them, savoring them, right? In a way that is significant for you. So I just want to invite you to, if you have pen and paper, or you can grab pen and paper, just take the next 2 minutes to reflect and journal in considering those questions. Thank you. So in just a few moments, I'll invite you back, and I'm gonna pause the share to just invite a little feedback about this exercise briefly. So if you could wrap up anything you might be noting at this time. I'm just curious, as you had a chance to envision what flourishing looks like for you and feels like, the good life. Um, how was the experience of even reflecting on that? I'm curious about how that felt. I'm curious about maybe something that's whatever stood out for you, right? Elaine Goldstein. I seem to have the same answer for both questions. My experiences also give me a sense of fulfillment, right? Well, Elaine, I'm hearing from that there's real alignment in your life, right? That the things that you're investing your time and energy in really are things that you derive meaning from. And so that's a wonderful thing. Any other shares? Any others? Comments? Please feel free to use the chat. And Bring smiles. Same answers for both. Ellen. Yes, it's a good feeling, right? To think about thriving. It feels good. And to tune into what gives you joy. Wonderful to reflect on both. Vic, thank you. Evoking great feelings. Ah, yes. Carolyn, laughter, open hearts, kindness, creativity. Elisa, hey Elisa, laughter, connection, just connecting with enough food, shelter. Just, oh, I hear you tuning into gratitude. Nicole, my good friend, for feeling, I think of calm, no anxiety, smile, physical touch, hugs, communication, affirmations. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. Danielle. Hey, Danielle, sharing, giving, service, contentment. Danielle and Nicole and Carolyn, thank you. Being around others, being in nature, just really having a moment to, again, revel in and savor those experiences, those things that we love and make us smile and we so appreciate and feed us. Deborah, this exercise is motivating to keep the focus on what works. The answers revolve around connection for me. Yes. So I talked about revisiting flourishing, the definition again and again, right? This exercise is a way of remembering, of bringing the focus back to what lifts us, right? And makes life feel so worthwhile and enjoyable, right? And carries us through lots of other moments. Thank you all so much for your input. I so appreciate it. I'm lifted by hearing your lifts. ah, and so we'll go back to the deck, and I just want to say, now that we've had this opportunity to really think about where we want to go, the state of being that we want to really cultivate for ourselves, the topic at hand also encompasses what it means to flourish even in the face of adversity, right? And so when we speak of adversity, again, as the definition says here, we're speaking about a state of hardship, an experience of challenge or affliction, or, what we associate with as misfortune. And the reality of the human experience is that, and I think it's so important to acknowledge that each and every one of us as human beings at some point or another encounters challenges that are um, not only difficult, but in some instances knee bending, and have the a way of disrupting, our sense of well-being, safety, security, right? All of us in some points in life experience varying degrees of disappointment and loss and trauma, even, right? In a way that we find ourselves trying to steady ourselves, right? And figure out how to do that. And I have to say also, sometimes those experiences of challenge or misfortune, especially if you're going through what I refer to as a dark night of the ego, right? Breaking down some things that are in need of release, they can go on for extended periods of time, right? Months and sometimes even years, right? And I speak from personal experience. um, and so also, Carolyn touched upon this. Not only are we dealing with the everyday human realities where curveballs can come, the twists and turns, the ups and downs, as Dr. Suits said, but we're also coming off of, we're not even coming off of, we're still in the midst of a pandemic, right? The last 18 to 20 months have been like no other. And so I say that, but I also want to acknowledge that even before COVID, even before, if we can remember back before then, we were already overloaded many of us were dealing with what I consider to be the hamster wheel syndrome, just trying to keep up with life, multitasking, scrambling, trying to stay afloat with, multiple, demands in our life from work, family, and so forth. And then COVID came, right? And it was a tipping point for so many of us, right? The level of having to multitask and cover the bases while also feeling like the rug had been pulled out from under all of us was, contributed to a collective sense of just not only high levels of stress, but exhaustion, right? Which we're still grappling with. Even as we begin or continue to talk about, the this hope or return of a return to normalcy, right? Normalcy, and I hear that and I say, honestly, it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the container after it goes out. I don't think we're going to get back to what we thought of as normalcy anytime soon, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing either, given where we started, right? um but we're still dealing with uncertainty and all the anxiety that brings, right? So we talk about needing to build strength in a way that is evolving with our reality, our daily reality, right? And so what is being asked of us now, even in a moment where we are feeling stretched to the limit, we are being asked to find deeper levels, deeper reserves of courage and flexibility and resilience and empathy. And many of us who are on this call, or are in a profession of service, right? So we're not only doing that for ourselves, we're doing that for others. And it is a tall order, right? No one is denying that. And so, most people are saying, oh, I'm trying to tread water. I'm trying to, again, stay afloat. And yet, how are we talking about thriving? How is that feasible? Is that realistic? And so, the short answer is yes. And there's good news in relation to what we've come to know about the benefits of positive psychology and how it serves us in the face of challenges and stressors, right? And so there was a fantastic study done by Barbara Fredrickson, several other, Kristen Neff, many well-known names in the field of positive psychology and mindful self-compassion, where they looked at positive psychology in a pandemic, right? And what effects that has around facing difficulty and dealing with the new reality, again, that we all individually and collectively face. And so one of the ways that they understood from their research that positive psychology helps us is a buffering effect, right? Providing a buffering effect in the sense that it shields us even when we're going through hard times and crisis. It shields us from experiencing even more significant emotional and psychological harm, right? So, there is a buffer that protects us from hopefully teetering over the edge. Secondly, it serves as a bolstering effect. When I think of bolstering, I think of stabilizing, right? And so if you have things that are working well and going well in your life, positive psychology helps us maintain our ground and momentum around those things that are working well so that we can continue to at least experience the benefit from them, and not have that disrupted. And thirdly, positive psychology helps us experience a building effect. This is my favorite. We're going to talk so much about this, but the idea that we can move through crisis not only in a way that we're protected, we're able to experience stability, but we're able to move through that moment in a way that actually transforms us for the better, right? That we're able to we develop knowledge and insights and strengths that propel us into greater experiences of well-being, right? And I read that and I said, Yes. Yes. I it resonated so deeply with me because of my own experience again of the last 7 years. Because and I think this quote sums it up. So I'll let me share it because I'm getting excited and ahead of myself. When we long for life without difficulty, remind us that oaks grow strong in contrary winds, and diamonds are made under pressure. Right? And I thought, oh my goodness, I feel like a diamond in the rough. I have arrived at a moment in my life where, despite having had an incredibly challenging several years, dating back before the pandemic, that I have arrived at a moment where I feel so strong within myself, so appreciative of who I am, and confident in expressing who I am, and optimistic about the opportunities for the future, and optimistic about the opportunities to really enjoy life, in its many forms, right? Through many avenues. And so, and this idea even that with whatever comes, I believe that I'll be able to move through it, somehow, some way. And I said, oh my goodness, how in the heck did I get here? How did that happen? How did that happen? What contributed to my building effect? Because, the truth is, when you're moving through life and having intense experiences, you're just trying to move, right? You're not pausing to reflect. You are in flow, so to speak. And so the big inquiry for me was, what helped me transform through crisis for the better? And to begin to answer that question, I want to talk a little bit about what those crises were, right? And again, I know we all have them. And so, my story is probably not unique. But I had a series of years, the 7 years, going back to 2014, up until the beginning of this year, where I'm sort of moving through the last phase of resurgence, that really buckled my knees, right? And so my son was born in December 2013. And within a few months of his birth, my 8-year relationship with his father ended. It really became apparent quickly, in the midst of me trying to figure out brand new motherhood, that we were not destined to continue on in a romantic relationship. And, it's not to villainize anyone. I think, he had gone through a series of setbacks and, personal losses, family losses. And sometimes, I've come to understand with compassion that sometimes you just hit a wall and you retreat into yourself. And it became very apparent for me, with little baby in hand, that the support that I desired and envisioned was not going to be available, and I needed to figure out very quickly, how to make sure that me and my son and I, were going to be okay. And around that same time, literally simultaneously, my mother um, went into a period of great struggle with after having been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and fell into great depths of depression, and really began to experience increasing levels of anxiety, and just feeling um a sense of pessimism about what that meant for her over the long term, and not feeling as if she could really be the person she thought she needed to be in the wake of her diagnosis. And so at the time, I was living in Los Angeles. I'd been living there for several years, and my family's rooted on the East Coast, and trying to grapple with that and encourage her through that. from 3,000 miles away while navigating single motherhood and full-time working. And it continues to be challenging in the sense that, the struggle continues as Parkinson's progresses, but all of that happening at the same time was not something that I anticipated and was, again, a very tall order. In addition to that, um, probably within that same 5-year span, about a year or two later, my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Um, my Thankfully, it was at a stage where it didn't require full on chemotherapy treatment. The cancer levels were such that they could do alternative methods and also just, keep an eye on it. And I'm happy to say, as of today, he is, cancer free. But my parents have been married 54 years. My dad is my mom's primary caretaker. And having the fear of what's going to happen to him and her, again, in a short span of time, with this domino effect of things, just kind of coming apart, was a lot to digest. um, and in fact, there was a moment when he had surgery and had complications from surgery about 2018, where I got about 48 hours notice that I had to arrange for my mom to come be with me in LA for about 4 months. And so I went from trying to support from afar pretty proactively to becoming, for a time, a primary caregiver, in addition to caring for my son, in addition to working full time. And so what that led to, about 2 months after my mother was able to return and be with my father in New Jersey, and about 3, 4 weeks after I finished up a very intense 5-year contract, like, I got all of the heavy lifting off my table. My body just almost gave out, honestly. My lockstep focus on just, keeping things going, keeping the engine running, came at such a cost and a toll. My blood pressure went haywire, became completely erratic and unpredictable. That led to a whole bunch of other serious symptoms that made it, honestly, so hard to do basic things and function. And yet I had to find a way because, when you're a single parent, there is little to no fallback, right? And I had been on top of that, a consultant for 10 years, self-employed. And so for the 6 to 7 months that I was trying to recover, I could not work. In fact, my doctor said, "You please stop working." And so when you don't work, you don't earn money as a consultant. And so the personal and financial implications of that were so significant, so scary. Um, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, but it wasn't, but somehow I knew that somehow, some way, I was going to need to find a way through, right? And we'll talk about how. But even by 2020, by the time, honestly, so much had happened by the time the pandemic came. I had just relocated back to the East Coast to be closer to my family after everything, and to be with my family, actually. And I had found a great opportunity, and then COVID hit like 2 months later, and trying to again deal with the ramifications of that, of, once again, work being by the wayside, and finding my way through. But I have to tell you, so much had happened. I was like, you know what? I've been through enough, somehow, some way. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. So, you know, when I thought about how I was able to arrive at "we'll figure it out," or, have some sense of confidence, I said, "Let me just even take a look at the research. What do we know about positive psychology when it comes to promoting adaptive coping and flourishing through adversity," right? And there were 5 main factors that really rose to the surface. And looking at that pandemic research study, and other findings, one, is having a sense of meaning, right? The degree to which you make sense of your life and you perceive your life to have value. And I have to say, I was so lucky being a social worker, being a coach, being a counselor. I was very clear because I had the opportunity to support and serve every day almost, to experience and witness and observe contributing to someone's growth and stepping into their own power and sense of what they're capable of. That really was bolstered me, so that I didn't have to wonder about meaning or whether my life had purpose. I have to also say positive interpersonal processes, everyday experiences like sharing laughter, being kind, gratitude, being loved. So even as my family was going through so much, never a question, never a doubt, that I am blessed to have their unconditional love and support. I have the best friends. I have been blessed. Many of my friends go back decades from childhood, high school, college, and that we have grown and evolved and moved through life together. And to be going through something, that level of difficulty, knowing that, again, having friends who could relate from their own experiences on some level, or even more so, honestly, that you could just be honest and vulnerable, and yes, find opportunities to laugh through the pain, honestly. It helped me so much. It helps me to this day. um, and high quality human connections, so that friendship is one aspect of it. I think one other saving grace for me was that at the time I had started my interspiritual certification program, a 2-year program at the time. My son was 2 years old. I was the only one in the program with a school age child, let alone a toddler. I don't know what possessed me, but I'm so glad that I didn't quite know what I was signing up for, because it was a East Coast based program. So I was getting up at the crack of dawn, getting the sitter up out of her bed so that I could be on these weekend seminars. But it was so worth it because I was part of a program and part of a community where um, I got to really dig into, um, the idea, the concept that everything we go through has meaning and value, and provides an opportunity for growth, right? It was, again, a blessing. So, what did I truly gain from my adversity experience? Grit and grace, right? The courage and resolve and strength of character to continue to pick myself back up after every speed bump, hiccup, curveball, every moment of falling down, and needing to get back up, and grace, just even in those moments that were excruciatingly difficult, finding ways to you know get some semblance of peace within myself, to say, even as I'm going through all of this, I'm trusting that there's a reason, and there's something there's new understanding and insights that will come that are going to serve me somehow. And that gave me an inner sense of peace, right? And so when I think about the strengths, the character strengths that were really important for me. Sorry, I'm getting a low battery. There we go. The character strengths that were really important for me. Again, having a sense of purpose and meaning. No matter what I was going through, I just had this sense that, sorry, I'm having battery issues. I apologize. Let's see what's going on. We have a disconnection. Again, Zoom life. There we go. All resolved. Thanks, pardon that interruption. Um, so with having a sense that I'm here to contribute something of that is unique to me, that I'm here to make a contribution that's meaningful. So whatever I'm going through is not going to take me down because I have a destiny to fulfill, right? And it doesn't have to be a grandiose destiny, but I am here and I am, here to offer value. And so that helped build my sense of trust that I could keep going and to, be brave and hopeful that there was better around the corner. Um, and I want to say also that just having that perspective of, this may feel awful, but there's an opportunity here. Even if I'm having a hard time grasping it, there's an opportunity to learn. There's an opportunity to let go of something that's not serving me. All of those things help me persevere. And so someone asked me when we were having a conversation about this topic, well, those strengths, great, they make so much sense, but how did you even steady yourself? How did you even gather yourself around all of that? Right? Like how did you even get to a point where you could think through the pain and comprehend? And I want to say that the root of my integrity, you know, is that the root of my integrity, technology, sorry, is that I am a truth seeker. What does that mean? That means that I am someone who really values being able to understand and know and reflect what is accurate, right? What is accurate, even if that means upsetting the apple cart, even if it means holding the mirror up and holding myself accountable, even if that means reassessing and reevaluating my life and having to change it. And that is something that, because the alternative is what? Living life according to a myth or a lie and being out of alignment with who I really am. And I want to say that I've probably been like that since birth. If you ask my family, I think they'd agree, right? So I was laughing about this, and and I want to be. I had a whole clip from the Matrix around red pill or blue pill and how he chooses the red pill, because he wants to seek truth, even if he knows all hell is going to break loose. And I'm like, yep, I'm a red pill person. And I wanted to say this. I was chuckling. I was trying to find a photo of myself, and it's in storage in California. I'm sorry, due to the pandemic, of me at 2 weeks old, just giving this look of, really now, 2 weeks, right? And I just laughed when I saw it, and I said, well, some of us are born BS detectors, right? We just have an innate sense. And when I saw these photos, I said, well, let's find some other young ones who reflect, what I saw in my own photo when I was 2 weeks old. So when you look at it being a born BS detector, these are some faces to look out for. If you see these expressions, you know what you're getting. um, and just one concept that was really helpful to me around being a truth seeker and what that path entails, is this idea of embracing Pandora's gifts. When I talk about all hell breaking loose, we think of Pandora and just, curiosity getting the better of her and all kinds of things going awry, with that mythology. But I love this quote from Alana Fairchild, who says, Pandora lives within us as our curious nature. She is the hopeful voice of our soul that asks the questions, and in doing so triggers the process that brings the answers. Sometimes it's through uncomfortable learning that we find our treasure. Pandora reminds us that the process of learning can take us places that seem like the end of our world, and yet all is not lost. Even now, the light within you is stirring for new revelation, new life, and new adventure. So just, honoring that stirring, that desire for new life and new adventure and revelation. And I also want to say, parenthood absolutely changed my perspective about everything, but certainly my ability to tap into deeper levels of strength. And I want to say the primary motivator for me as it relates to Isaiah is the understanding that, he's paying attention to everything I do. He's going to, in so many ways, emulate how I live life, how I walk, how I talk, how I engage. But he is also going to emulate me in my ability, if I can learn this for myself, to live fully and freely, right? He's going to emulate my ability to be resilient and really stand up in the face of challenge and say, okay, I can keep going. I can grow from this. And that's what I want, as much as anything in the world, I want that for him. And so you see my roadmap coming together here, right? We started with thinking about flourishing. And then we talked about, well, what are the strengths that really rose to the surface around embodying grit and grace and what that means for me? The ability to pick yourself up, the ability to find a sense of inner peace and trust, right? And calm and harmony, that allows you to have the clarity, the courage, the compassion to move through hard moments in the way that you would hope, right? And positively, negatively, growing, flourishing. And so I know we're up against time. And so I want to just highlight for you for continued reflection. When we talk about building your own roadmap, the questions for you, and you'll receive this in the PowerPoint, what strengths contribute to your grit and grace? What rises to the surface for you that you rely on again and again, that not only keeps you afloat, but allows you to move to that shore through those rough waters? What inner motivations fuel your strength, right? What are the things within you that maybe have always been a part of you or that you've grown into? Because certainly inner motivations can evolve over time, that that propel you forward. And you can take a look at the VIA character strengths as a reference. There's so many that stand out. Again, bravery, kindness, social intelligence is one that has served me very, very well. It's one of my top signature strengths as well. Teamwork is very important to me, having support. And so, to wrap up, I just want to highlight just a few personal practices. And Carolyn, please let me know time-wise. I apologize for those of you that,
No, go ahead and
made it.
take it.
Okay. So for personal practices, what has helped me build critical strengths, right? Because we talked about the inner motivation, but then there's how am I showing up? What am I choosing to do every day, or most days, hopefully, that build me up? And so the primary answer for me is what I refer to as cultivating a spiritual growth mindset. What does that mean? Again, with a fixed mindset, that really relates to a sense of stagnancy, and it is what it is, right? And so when you're having challenges and failure, it's viewed as a result of lacking something, right? Within you. You don't know enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have that skill, and you can't grow into it, right? Fixed mindset. On the other hand, growth mindset, which we know very well through positive psychology, is the, optimistic view of, focusing on not only what can be achieved, but just really having joy and appreciation for the process of learning, whether things go as anticipated or not, right? Challenges are embraced as opportunities, as springboards that propel you to further growth. Now, for me, especially being a spiritual counselor, there's a little twist to the growth mindset for me, right? So yes, I'm rooted in embracing challenges as a springboard for growth, but I'm also rooted in the belief that I'm living life according to a higher plan, a higher purpose, right? That we all are. And so, the idea is that yes, we face challenges, but we're able to face them with the confidence that it's not just about overcoming them or learning from them, but they are leading to, blessings, new insights, new awareness, a release of what has weighed us down, in a way that helps us move along a purposeful path, right? And so that level of confidence, you know, I wish you could bottle it, right? It's when we talk about us being a foundation of bravery and just trust to move forward. And I've had lots of instances in life, you know, I so much was going on halfway through my spiritual counseling certification. I one day I got another call about a health crisis from my parents, and it was again a tipping point. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I was behind with my studies, struggling to catch up. I was having great experiences in the program, but just keeping up with everything was just felt impossible as much as I loved the program. And I went to bed and I said, I can't do this anymore. I got it. I was ready to give up. And I went to sleep. And the next thing I know, I heard a knock at the door. It's like afternoon time, the sun is up. I open the door, and what I see is what can only be described as an older, like an elder, looks almost like a shaman, tribal shaman. And in that moment, grabs my arm and pulls me forward out of the door, right? And then meanwhile, I was living at the time still with my former partner and looking for a place of my own, which was very slow going and frustrating. Pulls me out of the front door. As that happens, I wake up. It was the most vivid dream I could have ever had. It was like waking life. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I woke up and immediately I said, okay, maybe I should rethink quitting the program. maybe maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. And I remember a couple hours later relaying this to a friend and how it reminded me of a poem I'd read about a month prior, The Voice Through the Door, listening to the voice through the door. That stuck with me. As soon as I looked down, I said those words. I looked down, the poem that I'd printed on a piece of paper was sitting under my right foot. So when I talk about a higher plan and affirmation and what's available, I could go on and on about those synchronicities. There is tuning into those moments where we are spurred on when we have guideposts. So what allows us to do that? For me, there are 5 things that rise to the surface. First and foremost, mindful self-compassion. If I am not being kind to myself, if I am not tuning into my own needs, I am going to have a hard time tuning into anything else and being of service in the way that I want to anyone else, right? Uh, Conscious humility. Had to really learn how to evaluate not only what was mine and what wasn't to do, what was mine to do and what wasn't, but to say, oh my goodness, this is too much. This is too much. I need help. I need help. I need support. And I needed a lot of it. So receptivity was also very huge for me. Friends, family, coworkers, and so on. I felt like I had a team at one point, my own like Avengers assembled. And I wasn't shy or shameful about asking for it. And benefit finding, I feel like this has become one of my superpowers, with everything that comes up that feels like it's going wrong, being able to find the silver lining. Being here with my folks again was not something that I ever envisioned at this time in my life. But, my decision to come back home came at the perfect time, right before the pandemic hit. It positioned me to have the support of my family and to support them in ensuring that we move through this time safely and secure, right? And helping out with caregiving gives me the opportunity to really be there for my mom, who has been so wonderful to me and continues to be. It's a divine reciprocity. And again, still appreciating the good. And just, with uplifting mindful self-compassion, for me, that is the core. It's the core. It's the engine that makes all the other practices and strengths run, because being understanding and supporting towards ourselves, understanding, not overreacting or judging ourselves when we're having a hard time, when life gets hard, or even when it doesn't, right? Things come up, feelings arise, and embracing yourself as you would a friend, a dear friend, and knowing that you're not alone. Yes, it's okay to be alone, but you're not alone in the experience of trying to move through mistakes and difficulties. We all know what that is. So, what I've gained, just to close so much, and, thinking about this, I was so emotional and in my heart and feelings, embracing Pandora's gifts. I learned to honor my right to feel truly good and choose accordingly. Because when your life implodes, when you go through hell in a handbasket, you really do learn to appreciate goodness and feeling good and choosing from a place of what feels good over this last year especially has led to some of the greatest and best blessings in my life, including the job that I have now, which I didn't even see coming. But when it landed, I said, oh my gosh, this feels good, I'm going to go with it. And it's been the best, the best. I came to genuinely know, love, and appreciate who I am at a deeper level. Unafraid, unafraid. I really do love myself. I love myself for who I am and my strength, and just, discovering that just being myself is enough is again one of the greatest gifts in life. Just to show up as you are in all your wonder and all your vulnerability, right? And that's what connects with people. That's what resonates and helps people know that it's safe to do that for themselves. So letting go of the need to be perfect, when my life was feeling like it was a complete mess, a lot of my stress was about, feeling like I couldn't live up to an image of having it together, especially with some of the roles I was playing and people depending on me in leadership. And, it didn't feel safe at the time to say, no, I'm having a really hard time, and trying to, you know, not being authentic about that, was draining. But I'm but no longer afraid of just things going wrong, or, I again, that benefit finding superpower. I'm not afraid of, challenge or vulnerability or struggle anymore. And I just feel empowered. Anybody who knows me, honestly, at work, my family, friends, I feel empowered to create healthier boundaries. It's just, again, choosing from a place of what feels good. It's the bookend to, you know, honoring my own needs and what allows me to move through life in a way that I can not just exist, but I can relish my experience, right? And savor it. And last but not least, I became even more of a badass and transformative presence. I smile when I say it, just owning up to being a leader and a trailblazer for my family, my son, and anyone I might engage, honestly, because when you have a certain freedom of energy and spirit, people can feel that whether they name it or not, there's something catalytic that happens. And I'm not afraid of that either anymore. So, thank you, Pandora. And, when we think about the roadmap, this is where we find ourselves. My roadmap looks like this, cultivating a spiritual growth mindset. Embody helps me embody grit and grace. And that helps me flourish through adversity in all these different ways. It's just been so wonderful and affirming and liberating to just even come to this clarity about what helps me flourish, because this is my toolbox, right? This is my toolbox. And the hope is that in reflecting on this conversation, you'll be able to define your own toolbox, right? How do you build strength? What gives you the energy and clarity needed to tend your inner garden? Taking time, giving yourself the opportunity to think about all of these questions and how you support yourself. That's my hope for you. That's my offering for you through this conversation. So, never forget how far you've come, everything you've gotten through, all the times you've pushed on, even when you felt you couldn't, all the mornings you got out of bed, no matter how hard it was, all the times you wanted to give up, but you got through another day. Never forget how much strength you have developed along the way. So I leave you with just again, as you think about the reflections and, what rose up and really resonated with you, you can consider one thing that really stood out to you through this conversation or that you might want to explore further, right? What's speaking to you? What's calling to you on the basis of this conversation? And I just thank you so much for your extra time in moving through this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kara. Wow, Kara. Amazing. Amazing. I there's so much. I'm preparing for the women's spa day for women with cancer, and men are welcome to if they're experiencing breast cancer, which happens to men too. And I just am so inspired by what you have shared, and I hope I can share some of it as eloquently as you have.
Oh, thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We all go through those times in our life when it's particularly hard, especially when the challenges are stacked, as they have been in your case, and they are ongoing. And we're in a pandemic situation, so that has been a lot of ours, for a lot of us, our experience collectively.
Yes.
So coming together so that we can manage that debt, right? That grief debt, that resilience, or lack of it, challenge, that struggle, and work together with our character strengths and build our own resilient toolkit makes a lot of sense, and it takes a lot of grit and a lot of humor. So
yes, a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying on. As I mentioned, we have positive psychology next week, and that is going to be an amazing, amazing session. It is with why do we do what we do? Self-determination theory. And I think you're going to love that. And what a wonderful bookend. We had Kathy Washburn on Tuesday, and we have Kara Coleman here on Thursday. I hope you guys enjoy the recording. We will see you next week. And please click the link to the chat if you're interested in SIP. It's not too late to sign up. Take care, everyone. Be well. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.